everyone! Welcome back to my channel, youtube.com/MargoCamaya, and in today's episode of our vlog series, we are commemorating the 159th birth anniversary of Dr. Jose P. Rizal. So Rizal is, I think, the 19th, one of the most well-written, most published of our 19th century ilustrado or heroes, and there's a reason why people love reading and talking about Rizal. He was a conscious hero, as per Humberto Campo and Theodoro Agoncillo. He wrote thousands of volumes of letters. Okay, he was truly a Renaissance man, as described by his early biographers, and I believe that he dabbled into a lot of interests that when you think about it, even in our modern times, it's very unusual for someone who was living in that context of the Philippines. Anyway, first off is these are book recommendations, especially for those who are Rizal collectors or who collect Rizaliana. Okay, so first off is, we'll start with his Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. So unfortunately, like many of the modern day Filipinos now, I do not read, or I cannot read in Spanish or speak Spanish. So that's very unfortunate, because Rizal wrote mainly in Spanish, and of course we all know lost in translation. But these are the following translated works of his Noli and Elfili. I would consider these as one of the best in the market. First off, we'll start with my favorite version, which was transcribed in English by Leon Maria Guerrero, who was a diplomat, an author, a writer, and who came from a very prominent and well-connected family. So when I say well-connected, it's not really like well-connected because they were rich or influential, but they were well-connected in the education system. His family on his father's side, the Guerreros, they had a lot of achievements in science and botany. They were part of the revolution as well, against the Spaniards, or against Spain. So these editions of Leon Maria Guerrero came out originally in, I think, in the late 50s or early 60s, but it still resonates in our time. I love his prose, the way that he translated Rizal in English. And I know that Anvil, you can check out Anvil, their online bookstore, and even National Bookstore if it's open in your neighborhood. They came up with reprints of Leon Maria Guerrero's version of Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo. So in most of my articles about Noli Me Tangere and El Fili, I normally use Guerrero's translations. Okay? For students, okay, I think this is the best English translation that you can use. Very easy to read, very understandable. The Noli, and unfortunately I don't have a copy of my Noli Me Tangere, but there's a Noli Me Tangere and El Filibusterismo translated by Maria Soledad. Let me just make sure. Maria Soledad Lacson Locsin. So I find this very easy to read. Okay, so if you're a student studying Rizal in Rizal 101 or in high school, this is the best version that you could refer to for school. Finally, this is my latest acquisition, Noli Me Tangere by Vebal Publishing. This was the original English translation made by Charles Derbyshire. It came out in the early 1900s, or early 20th century. So this version, nice thing about this is You have the English version, and then you also have the Spanish version on the other side. Okay, English version, Spanish. So you can compare, you know, you can read this in the English and then try to understand the Spanish if you don't know how to speak Spanish. Added bonus for this are the bositos, or the art sketches or studies of Juan Luna. So originally when Noli Me Tangere came out in 1887, it was in Spanish, and Rizal decided to come out with his own Tagalog version. And in that Tagalog edition, they were planning to add illustrations made by Juan Luna. But unfortunately, because of what happened years after, it never came into fruition. So let me just show you some of Luna's drawings. Yes, very unfortunate as well, because during World War II, the original drawings by Luna were lost in the Battle of Manila in 1945. It was a good thing that Alfonso T. Ongpin, the famous photographer, art collector from the prominent Ongpin family, was able to take pictures of the bositos. And these are the ones that you can see in the internet. I actually wrote a blog article about the Noli Me Tangere bositos. Not everyone knew that Juan Luna made sketches of characters coming from Noli Me Tangere. So these are his sketches, and you can see that on the bottom part of the drawings, you can see the letter B for bulan, okay, or the moon, no? Luna, because remember, Luna is Spanish for moon. So bulan is, I think, in Ilocano, it means moon. But also in Albay, in my mom's hometown, we call the moon bulan as well. Okay. Or in Tagalog, it's buwan. So same, no? Etymology of the word moon in Tagalog or in Philippine languages. So you have Basilio, you have Basilio and Crispin, and their mother, Sisa, the tragic Sisa. So there's about, I think, if I'm not mistaken, around 10 drawings made by Juan Luna for the, unfortunately, not made Tagalog version of Noli Me Tangere. Okay, our next batch of books that I highly recommend that you have in your collection comes from Ambeto Campo, of course, you know, the famous Rizal historian. And I think, no, in my opinion, he was really the one who brought Rizal back to the forefront in people's consciousness. He came out with Rizal Without the Overcoat, right? His articles about Rizal, originally in 1990 or 1991. I have that original edition. It's in my parents' house. I also have Makamisa. It was Ambeto Campo's thesis for his graduate studies. What happened was that he was in the National Library, and he found these draft papers pertaining to a lost third novel of Rizal that he was planning to write in Tagalog. I was also very fortunate enough that 2 or 3 years ago, I was able to attend one of Ambeto Campo's lectures in Ayala Museum, and I was able to request for him to sign his autograph on the Makamisa book. And of course, part of the Looking Back series of Ambeto Campo, this came out as well, Rizal's Teeth and Bonifacio's Bones. Another Ambeto Campo book about Rizal are all about his lectures, compiled lectures in meaning and history. Okay, all available in National Bookstore in Anvil Publishing. Okay, next is biographies about Rizal. So earlier I talked about Leon Maria Guerrero, and this is his first Filipino biography of Jose Rizal. It came out during the centenary of Rizal in 1961. just in time for the centenary. Okay. Truthfully, I haven't finished reading this. I bought it about, I think, last year, 2 years ago. Definitely, it's a huge read, right? But I've glimpsed through it the past few years, and I think I'll find time to complete reading his version of Jose Rizal. Okay. Next is it's a highly new version of Jose Rizal. This one came from Hanlon Books, specially designed for young readers, you know, for children. Part of their Halo-Halo stories, Sino Bayani, Jose Rizal. I love this book. I've enjoyed it because of the different illustrations, photographs, and the way that it was designed. A lot of fun facts and trivia about Jose Rizal. The last biography book about Rizal that you really need to have part of your Rizal collection is Indio Bravo or Lolo Jose, no? Written by Asuncion Lopez Rizal Bantug, who is a grandniece of Rizal through his younger sister, or through his sister Narcisa. Okay. Originally, the book was submitted in a contest. I think it was in 1938. There was a contest about it's like an essay writing or biography writing for Rizal. So even though she was a relative of Rizal, again, maybe the way that, you know, writing style and everything, there's a criteria to it. This story was just an honorable mention. The first prize went to Rafael Palma, who became president of University of the Philippines, and second prize was given to Carlos Quirino, the national artist for historical literature, who became the national artist for historical literature. This version of the Hanlon Books is, I think, one of the most titled one, because aside from being written by a relative of Rizal, it was edited. So this version came out in 1997. It was reprinted again by Hanlon Books. So this is the new reprint in the 2010s. So it was edited. So it was written with Sylvia Mendez Ventura, based on her original biography, no, in 1938. They rewrote it with Sylvia Mendez Ventura, and then it was edited by National Artist for Literature Nick Joaquin, right? And then the illustrations found inside the book, or included in this version, is by none other than National Artist for Visual Arts, Ben Cabrera. So nice, no? I think this is one of the best book that you can have in your collection. I actually gave a copy of this to one of my nieces, who also likes learning about Rizal. And actually, it was my cousin who enjoyed reading it. But again, no, very nice to have this in your collection. And finally, we have Rizal, not just a writer or a dissenter, right, but also the poet and the storyteller. So first off is Rizal Makata by Virgilio S. Almario. Actually, Virgilio S. Almario also have versions of Noli Me Tangere and El Filibustrismo in Tagalog. He transcribed it, and he has Tagalog versions out in the market. Maybe one of these days, you know, I'll buy copies of them, so that just to complete my Noli and El Fili collection. So I have English and in Tagalog. Okay. So these are, so what it contains are some of his what do you call this, essays about Rizal as a writer, as a poet. And then he also translated Rizal's poetry from the original Spanish to Tagalog. I just found this by accident in National Bookstore, and in one of the sales bins that they had. So, and finally, we have Rizal as the storyteller. This is his version of Hans Christian Andersen tales. I think Thumbelina, the Fir Tree, and The Ugly Duckling. So he translated them into Tagalog for his nephews, and I think nieces as well. And nice part about this are the illustrations. Okay. Well, as per Ambet Ocampo, who had written an article about this, there's rather a controversial thing about this, because the original manuscript seems to have been lost. It was originally part of the collection of the Rizal family, but I think they lent it to a family friend or a relative who never returned it. Fortunately, they were able to make copies of the original. That's where this came from, the illustrations and Rizal's Tagalog version. Okay. So those are my book recommendations in honor of Rizal's birth anniversary. Again, if you have any suggestions or feedback, kindly use the comment box. And thank you very much. Happy birthday, Lolo Jose. Thank you for being one of my idols. As a Filipino, you're one of my idols. So happy birthday, Lolo Jose. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you in my next episode.